This past winter, and now spring, I've been fortunate to find 3 shards from Native American Indian stone bowls. I've also found a number of other ground stone tools. I am quite excited by these finds because in my 36 years of unearthing artifacts, I had only found maybe 10 such pieces. And in the last 6 months, I've come across over 20, but only 3 represent bowls. Over the years, I've been asked many times in public speaking engagements how the Indians made ground stone pieces. And I'd like to share with you a little bit about that. In preparing this, I would like to acknowledge James Fitting's book, The Archaeology of Michigan, and I am also indebted to the University of Ohio's website, the Office of State Archaeologist, in particular, their page titled Ground Stone Artifacts. And I will put a link in the description so that you can visit their site. A lot of good stuff there. Anyways, many stone items for everyday use were made by a method called arc pecking, as well as grinding and also polishing one stone against another stone. The basic materials are abundant in nature. It would include rhyolite, basalt, granite, and a variety of other rock types. The glaciers that moved to and fro across North America deposited cobbles, which were picked up and made use of by indigenous peoples of North America. The process of making tools by packing and grinding took a great deal of time, but the finished product could be used for years and years as they were very durable. Certainly they would outlast most modern steel tools, which in time will rust away. Now, the process consisted of repeated arc packing and grinding with a hard stone. Today I found a good shard or body shard from a stone or vessel or utensil. This stone that it was made from would have been fairly easy to form. The stone is a light tan color and has a gritty feel to it, and I believe it to be a sedimentary type rock. It has been thinned to about a 1/4 inch thick. Polishing stone pieces was accomplished using sand, animal hide, and water to lubricate. In the early Archaic period in North America, certain types of artifacts began to appear, and that were made by this method, and they included celts, axes, gouges, plummets, mauls, and banner stones. Also, some smoking pipes. Interestingly, cobbles that had a small, shallow depression and are called anvil or nutting stones were picked up and were shaped actually by their continued use for cracking open nuts and grinding with the edge of the stone. I have found many what are called nutting stones, sandwich stones, or anvil stones, which display very heavy use. Axes were grooved in a number of ways, each allowing for the tool to be hefted or attached to a handle. The axe, of course, as I already said, was made by the arc pecking method, but the groove that was formed in the axes were made by the same method, but they weren't always polished out like the surface of the rest of the axe. Some are full groove, meaning they were grooved all the way around the device. Some called 3/4 groove are in fact only grooved 3/4 of the way around. This past year here in Saginaw, Michigan, I have found a number of full grooved and 3/4 grooved axes and hammer stones. All of those that I found were very crude execution and design, but that just makes them more interesting for study. Celts, also a ground stone tool, are made with no groove around them, but they were still hefted to a handle in a different manner. Some are quite crude, but others are beautifully made. The first artifact I ever found of a ground type was a brilliantly crafted celt of a dark green hardstone. And while it's a bit off the topic of this particular video, I will share with you the unusual circumstances of my finding this piece. I think you'll find it interesting and maybe even get a chuckle out of my misfortune. It was in Oscoda, Michigan in the fall of that particular year. I don't remember the year, early 1990s. The day was overcast, damp, and very gray. I was at a site that I had named the Old Benetton Creek Village, where I had unearthed the extensive remains of a late woodland village site and, deeper, the scattered remains of a middle woodland occupation site. These were on the site, I should say, was on a 20-foot bluff, at the base of which is Van Etten Creek, which flows into the mighty Asable River. This particular day, I decided to go to Old Van Etten Creek and do a little digging for artifacts, but I didn't feel very good. I had a mild headache, and my stomach was doing flip-flops all morning. And I knew I had a bout with the flu coming on, but I seldom missed an opportunity, at least back then, to be out on the hunt. As I was digging, it began to mist heavily, and my headache got worse. My stomach felt as though it was going to explode, and I began to feel lightheaded, and decided to pack it in and head for home reluctantly. You know, right before you're going to throw up, how you start salivating wildly? Well, that began, and so I began down the path toward where I was parked. I braced myself with my shovel and was fighting hard as I could not to, excuse me for being so rude, but puke. And by the way, the path was right at the top of the 20-foot bluff. Well, I lost the battle with my stomach and began throwing up, got dizzy, tripped on my shovel, and began rolling down the bluff while clutching tight to the shovel as if that were going to help me at all. About 3/4 of the way down, my tumble descent was broken by a rather large pine tree. And after emptying my stomach one more time, I stuck my shovel into the ground and used it to help myself up. And as I stuck it into the ground, I heard it hit rock. My head was still spinning, and I was aching all over from both my tumble down the hill and the flu, but I turned over a shovel full of dirt to see what it had struck. And laying there was the most beautifully perfect 7-inch long dark green celt that I had ever laid eyes on. It was absolutely gorgeous. It's now in the collections of the Oscoda Asable Historical Society. Even though I suffered with the flu for the next week, I felt it was worth it just to find that grand ground celt. I don't know how abundant stone bowls are here in Michigan, but whilst my stepson David and I were down in Georgia, we were able to look at many artifact collections. And while not as abundant as pottery bowls, for example, we did see down there quite a few examples of steatite stone bowls. I actually, in museums here in Michigan, don't recall seeing the remains of any stone bowls. Well, anyways, that's about all I have for this time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And thanks for stopping by.